Family. Man, I have missed you like crazy. PT here, Touré Roberts. If this is your first time listening to the Call podcast and tapping in, I want to say welcome. The reason why I'm so excited is that I have missed you. I haven't recorded a new series since June. I've been busy. God's been moving. Exciting things are happening. Where you been? Why'd you leave me? Okay, look at me trying to blame shift. But anyway, I'm so glad that we're back together. And this new season will literally be life-changing. I'm so excited about it. So many things going on. So first of all, if you are new to the Call podcast, first of all, welcome. So glad you're here. Glad we're connected. This is going to be one of your favorite places to come and be inspired, to be edified, to be lifted up as an entrepreneur, as a leader, or someone who is just trying to take their life to the next level. This is the place. And you know what? I keep it short and sweet. If it isn't practical, if it isn't meaningful, if it isn't helpful, I do not waste your time. It's going to be good. There are a couple of things that I need you to do as well. If this is your first time, I want you to subscribe. I don't want you to miss. I'm going to have 18 episodes in this series every single week. 18 episodes, and it will be life-changing. Subscribe so that you'll be alerted every time a new episode is coming your way. And I want you to review it. I read those reviews. I read those comments. If it's blessing you, let me know. If there's certain subjects and topics you want me to discuss, let me know, because this resource is a tool for you. And so I want you to do that. Couple of things. If you're an entrepreneur, our Call conference, our annual conference is coming back. It's going to be in Miami, Florida this year. You do not want to miss it. The environment is going to be electric. Powerful things are happening in Miami right now. So much deal flow. A lot of young entrepreneurs are coming to town, and it's just an electric environment. And I couldn't think of a better environment to host our Call conference. You can go to callleaders.com and get all the information, all the details, all the speakers. It's going to be phenomenal, and I want you there. Do it quickly. I keep it intimate, and so seats will run out quickly, and there are incentives right now for those who are going to be early birds, and so tap into that. Last but not least, I've got a new book coming out. It's called Knowing. This, my friend, is a game changer. I have never felt a book be as timely as this book is. It's called Knowing: The Journey to Certainty in an Uncertain World. This thing is the best thing that God has ever written through me, and I want you to have it. And if you pre-order it now, I have a special gift for just my Call community. If you pre-order it now, I'm going to give you a free Entrepreneurship Advantage Guide, all based on knowing. It's going to be amazing. So a lot going on, a lot to bring you up to speed on. But for now, I want us to dive into this podcast. This episode, I believe, is going to bless your life. I want to talk today about what an entrepreneur's greatest competitive advantage is. It is not capital. It's not the entrepreneur's connections. It's not talent. It's not even timing. The greatest advantage that anyone who wants to be successful in is their ability to know. It's what I call knowing. This is truly your competitive advantage. This is what separates average founders from extraordinary builders. It's in your ability to know, and we're going to talk about what that is. Knowing is the internal guidance system that reveals what to build, when to move, who to trust, when to pivot, and how to scale. But let's take it deeper. At its deepest level, knowing is discovering what God has already known about you, about your enterprise, and it's about tapping into what God foreknew concerning you. You know, there's this passage of scripture, and we all love it. It's in Jeremiah 29:11, where God says, "For I know the plans that I have for you, they're good and not evil, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you a future and a hope." This is God saying to you, hey, I've got plans for you, right? God is a God who declares the end from the beginning. So we are just walking out and living out what God has already worked out. And you were created to build things. That's who we are. You know, if you think about scripture in the very beginning, if you want to see the blueprint for entrepreneurship. You'll never find anything that models business or entrepreneurship more than looking at God doing his work in the book of Genesis. If you look at it, think about it. He envisions something, he speaks it out, and it's created. But it's not just created, it's created with the seed within itself. It literally is created to be a system that will perpetually produce, so much so that on the seventh day after God created the solar system, isn't that interesting? It's called a solar system. As he creates all these systems, he sits down on the seventh day and rests and just tells his creation to be fruitful and multiply because he already put systems for perpetual productivity in it. This is entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is to envision something, to speak it, to build it, and then to set it in motion so that ultimately it can function without you. And so I just love that. I taught on it at the Potter's House. You probably should go back and listen to that. It was called Let's Go to Work. But I want you to understand that we were created, we were designed literally with a blueprint that if we work it, it will work for us. And so knowing is about tapping in to what God already knows so that we begin to participate in what God foreknew. Your success, let me tell you something right now. Hear me clearly. Your success is already worked out. You don't have to try to be successful. You just have to align yourself with the successful plan that's already been preordained for you. Are you hearing me? So in other words, success has been built into the fabric of your life. You just have to come to a place where you know what God knows already. Are you tracking with me? I can hear you say, I'm tracking with you, PT. So let's talk about knowing. And I want to offer knowing as something that, although it includes these things that I'll mention in just a moment, knowing is distinct from these things. It differs from instincts and gut feelings. So if you think about an instinct is reactive. You know, your instinct is reacting to your environment, your surroundings, and that's a part of knowing, but knowing is deeper. It's also deeper than a gut feeling. When you think about a gut feeling is emotional. Sometimes fear can produce a gut feeling. But knowing is revelatory. Knowing is a revelation. It is integrated clarity that begins before evidence is even there. And I'm going to unpack these things, but it combines intuitive clarity, which is more of an internal resonance, informed clarity. So once you have that resonance, you want to go and do some research and data and get various insights to validate the fact that it is true. And then it also includes or combines not only intuitive clarity, informed clarity, but identity clarity. So when I know who I am, I will know that it is truly knowing because it aligns with who I am. But we're going to talk about that a whole lot more. Again, we got 18 episodes, so just stay tuned with that. But here is the deeper dimension to knowing. Knowing is your spirit remembering something that God already placed in you. Isn't it amazing that God is not calling you to possess something you don't already have? Before he formed you in your mother's womb, he knew you, he ordained you, he set you apart. In other words, he placed something in you. So knowing is about getting to a place where you tap into what God already knew that is in you. And because of that resonance, you begin to align yourself and powerful things begin to happen. Now, as I study entrepreneurs, and I'm an entrepreneur, and I think about my wins and my losses, my successes and my failures, I'm realizing that entrepreneurs oftentimes don't fail because they were ignorant. Sometimes they fail simply because they weren't in alignment. There was misalignment. Founders rarely fail because they lacked information. They fail because they disconnect from what God already knows about them. They partnered with the wrong people. They pursued the wrong opportunities. They used all their passion and all their resources to pursue something that wasn't predestined or preordained. They stayed too long in the wrong season. They didn't tap into that voice that would let them know when to pivot or when to move. They weren't tapped into knowing, so they ignored divine signals. There were things that God put out there that God wanted to place in their spirit, but they ignored them. They didn't believe in them, which means that the problem wasn't knowledge. It was misalignment with the truth that God already established. And that's what knowing is about. And so I want to talk about this knowing a little further. And when you think about being a business person, businesses thrive off of being able to move with both speed and accuracy. Speed and accuracy. So let's talk about that for a second. What do you mean by speed and accuracy? First of all, speed allows you to step into the window that God has for you in the timing of that window. I wish I can say that better. In other words, as I've learned about business, there are windows of opportunity, right? There are moments where if you don't get through that window in time, that window will close. And so you have to be able to move with speed. But let me tell you something right now. Speed without accuracy is recklessness. So knowing allows you to know something and to be confident in it, so much so that you can move within the timeline of that opportunity, but you don't do so recklessly because you're tapped into the accuracy that comes with knowing. Now, it also works the other way. You can have accuracy without speed, right? And so you take your time to get accurate. You know, you have a sensing, you have a hunching, but you need 47 confirmations, right? And while you're getting that confirmation, because you have the accuracy, yeah, you got the accuracy, you could have got it sooner, you got the accuracy, but you missed the timing. So what knowing allows you to do is to believe in that accuracy and move within the window of that accuracy. Are you tracking with me today? So all of us have the ability to know. You know, I talk about in the book Knowing how there is this word, and it's only used one time in the scripture, and it was translated senses. And it's a Greek word, and when you study that Greek word, it literally means the organ of perception. So isn't that fascinating? So the God who gave you the ear to hear, the nose to smell, the mouth to taste, the hands, the fingers to touch, to give you tactile capabilities, why would that God not give you the ability to perceive him? And so literally we all have an organ of perception, but we have to, one, realize that we have it. In other words, we have the ability to know. And this is why I'm so excited about bringing this podcast, this book, this message to you. It's because we're moving into a time right now where there are going to be so many opportunities for God's entrepreneurs to do great things. And here is the advantage that God's entrepreneurs have over any other entrepreneur. Here's what God's entrepreneurs has over everyone: the ability to know, the ability to trust and believe that we have an organ to perceive. And let me tell you something, God's not going to prompt you to something that's going to set you back. He's going to prompt you according to what he knows, right? Because he already preordained it. He's not going to prompt you to fail. And if God ever prompts you into something that looks like failure, it is simply a setup. I'm telling you, it is not a setback. It is a setup for an upgrade. I've learned this so many times in my life, right? It's either winning now or winning bigger later. This is how God works. And so I want to talk about how to build a clearer knowing over time. I want to get more into the practicals of knowing. The first thing that we must do in order to be good knowers is to slow down the noise. We have got to learn how to be still. Isn't it interesting? There's that passage of scripture. It's in Psalm 46, it's Psalm 46 and 10, I believe. Read your whole Bible, you'll find it. But it literally says, be still and know. So the knowing exists. See knowing as an ever-flowing stream of divine information. In the book, I call it divine intelligence. You got to see knowing that way. But this stream is difficult to perceive in the backdrop of noise. It's not something that you have to go and find. It's not something that you have to go and search for. It's something that you have to still yourself into. And the world is loud. There's so much going on. Things on social media, things on the news, things in your own lives, things in your head. But if you want to tap into that stream of knowledge, that stream of knowing that leads you to success, you are going to have to learn how to slow down and to be still. That's the first thing. The second thing is you're going to have to learn to track your resonance. In other words, track what's resonating to you. Why is it resonating? Knowing will be resonant to you because it's tapping into something that is already in you. Knowing is not something that's outside of you, it is in you. And so when you tap into the stream, all of a sudden, man, wow, this feels familiar. I can't explain it. I don't have all the data. I don't have all the information. It may not even make sense to the people around me, but it is resonating deeply within you. Pay attention to things that resonate deeply, even if you don't have the facts, even if you don't have the data. Pay attention because resonance is the language of knowing. It is the echo of God's yes. Are you tracking with me? So first, you got to slow down the noise. You got to be still. Secondly, you got to track your resonance. Track what resonates. Number 3, this is interesting, and this happens over time. You've got to study your patterns, right? We get better at perceiving God's voice over time, right? Your life has what I like to call these breadcrumbs of divine intelligence. Yes, God can speak to you in a number of ways. You can tap into knowing through a variety of ways, but truthfully, we are wired to perceive in certain ways. The way that I might perceive might be different. God has ways of letting you know that it's Him speaking to you. And so you have to begin to track the patterns. You know, when I get still, for me, it starts with a whisper. Sometimes it's not this loud sentence or this loud phrase. It's literally one word. And I'm like, that's resonating very deeply, right? And so all of us have our patterns, our ways in which God speaks to us, and we have to begin to track them so that it expedites our ability to recognize the knowing. So you got to slow down the noise. You got to track the resonance. You got to study your patterns. What are the breadcrumbs that lead you to God's divine intelligence, to this knowing that we're talking about? And then you have to make certain that it aligns with your identity. So the clearer you are about who you are, the quicker you can determine and discern the knowing that God is bringing your way, right? The clearer you are about who God made you to be, the louder the knowing becomes because it is further resonant. And then the 5th tool is to trust the small confirmations, right? When God is showing me something, whether it's a company to invest in or a business to start, they're always confirmations and you got to respect them. And here's one of the things that I've learned about God. When it's something big, when it's something that is unprecedented, you've never seen it before, no one in your community or your space has ever seen it before, what God will do is He will front load you with confirmations. So in other words, you get that sensing, you get that knowing, it starts there, and then all of a sudden, everywhere you turn, there is a sign that this is true. And the reason why God is doing it, and oftentimes if it's something big, He does it in abundance because you're going to come to a point where you have to make a step, you're going to have to make a decision, you're going to have to make the leap of faith, and you have all of this history of confirmation. You got all this history of resonance. You got all this history of how God speaks to you, and it gives you courage in that moment to take that leap of faith, oftentimes a leap that will change the trajectory of your life. Family, let me tell you something. I have never been more excited about God's entrepreneurial army than I am right now. In many cases, in many spaces, things are uncertain. The world is a little bleak. Some people are losing their jobs. They're concerned about artificial intelligence and the effect that will have on the job market. There's some concerns about the dollar and the local economy and the global economy and all these things are taking place. But I truly believe that all those things are setting up the backdrop for what I believe will be the greatest force of kingdom entrepreneurs this world has ever seen. And I almost feel this prophetically for someone. You might be listening and you haven't started your business yet. You're drawn to this podcast not because you are yet an entrepreneur, even though by identity you are, because if you're created in the image of God, who is the chief entrepreneur, then you are entrepreneurial, right? But you may not have started your company, you may not have started your work, and I just really feel this prophetically for you. There's a passage of scripture that says the last shall be first, and the first shall be last. And if you're listening to this, I believe that God is going to give you the resources, the tools, the relationships, everything you need to manifest, to birth, to produce that which is on the inside of you. So don't be discouraged. Whatever you need, there's this passage of scripture in Deuteronomy chapter 8 and verse 18. And it's where God says that I've given you the ability to create wealth. And that Hebrew word that was translated wealth is a Hebrew word chayil, and it literally means men, resources, and means. In other words, I have given you the ability to create whatever you need to create in order to manifest what I knew about you and what I ordained for you before I put you in your mother's womb. And so as I wrap up this podcast, I want to encourage you that this is not hype. This is not mysticism. This is not just something that is out there. This knowing is what God is doing, and it's going to give you the greatest competitive advantage you have ever had. It's not instinct. It is divine memory. It's God allowing you to remember something that is in you that will ultimately manifest what God foreknew about you. It's the inner clarity that reveals to you what to do next because your steps are ordered and God already knows the plans that he has for you. If this has blessed you, here is what I want you to do. I want you to rate it. I want you to review it. I want you to subscribe to this. We've got 18 episodes that are all about knowing. They're all about you as the entrepreneur tapping into your superpower. This is your advantage. This is your competitive advantage. And I'll prophesy this to you as well. I believe that by this time next year, because you have worked the principles, because you've listened to all the episodes, because you pre-ordered Knowing and got your entrepreneur workbook. And if you want that, go to cultleaders.com/knowing, pre-order the book. I'll send you a PDF. It's a workbook. It's going to show you practically step by step how to activate the gift of knowing in your enterprise. If you do this, I believe by faith and really by the Spirit of God, in the next 12 months, you literally are going to see incredible things manifest because we are in a time of acceleration. We are in a time of advance, and I'm excited about what God is doing with you, the entrepreneur. I'm so glad to have this time with you. If you want more information about the Called Conference or more information about how to get your Entrepreneur's Advantage workbook, go to cultleaders.com. I'm so grateful to be with you. I've missed you, and I cannot wait to get into next week's episode. God bless you. Talk to you soon. Next week, we're going to be talking about the decision engine. Companies rise and fall by the decisions that they make. I'm going to show you how to make good decisions. If you make good decisions, you're going to have great outcomes. If you have great outcomes, you'll have a successful enterprise. I cannot wait for you to hear this episode.